What is up, fellow humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got another deck profile for you. This time we're looking at Tri-Brigade Zoo. I know this is somewhat of a popular deck in the meta, and so it's kind of like a little bit overdone right now, but it's a deck that I really enjoy. It's like exactly my kind of style of deck, but you guys know I don't usually play meta, but I've always wanted to do this profile. I did one way before. Like back before people even thought Zoo Tri-Brigade was like good enough to even attempt to play. And so I wanted to update that now that the deck is meta. We've got new support, and it's just a deck I really do enjoy. So without further ado, let's just jump in with a couple things to start. So not jump in. Let's start off with a couple of prerequisites. First and foremost, I'll leave budget. I'm going to talk about a couple budget options at the end of the video because this version of the deck is not budget at all. And I know there's a lot of budget players out there. So we'll talk about that, as well as the fact that if you think this mat is clean, this is like another lore deck for this, but if you think the Ecclesia lore stuff is really cool, definitely consider picking up this mat. It's really cool. This side has Ecclesia facing down Golgonda, and the other side is her backed up by the Stigmata Dragon. Very cool lore mat from my guy Charles from Team COG. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to pick it up, and also a code for 10% off will be down there as well. Gives me a little something, helps Charles out. You get a dope mat for a solid price, and yeah, we're all winners. So let's just jump into it without further ado. After all those shenanigans, starting off with the Tri-Brigade lineup. This is super standard, right? Triple Fractal, triple Nerval, triple Kit, and double Karas. This is like so standard at this point. I feel like this lineup, especially in this variant, you don't need triple Karas just because the deck like only needs him for when you like have to play around disruption essentially, or need that extender. And so other than that, you don't really need him. Kit's just a great addition from Blazing Vortex that helps you get to Nerval more impactfully with extra materials engrave. And, you know, that's really clean. And then Fractal, the best Tri-Brigade starter monster. So that is it there. Those 11 are super standard. Then for the ZOODIAC stuff, very simple. One Rapier, one Ram, and one Whiptail, rounding those out. Again, this is super standard as well for this part of the deck. You have to play Ram if you're going to play Rapier because it's part of that combo. And then Whiptail is just like the best utility one after that. Thoroughblade doesn't really make sense because you're not playing enough zoos to even make his effect really that good. And these just end up being the three best ones if you're going to play a really small engine. All right, after that, we move to the hand trap lineup. Nothing too crazy here. Triple Ash. It's Ash. Like, what are you going to do? Triple Skullmeister. Triple him because he's not once per turn. Double Ghost Bell. This also has a place in the meta right now. And then one DD Crow. For this lineup, there's nothing too crazy. Like I said, Skullmeister's the 3 because it's a not hard once per turn. Ghost Bell's really nice, particularly in the mirror, because in the mirror, it's kind of like Revolt. I mean, not even just a mirror, but if you're just ever facing against this deck, the one thing you don't want to resolve is Revolt. They're going to get so much advantage off of it, you're just going to like lose right there. And so Ghost Bell negating that is actually huge. And then the one DD Crow. This is kind of like I don't know, technically a tech card. It's just cool because in the very specific situation where you revolt into Charade on your opponent's turn to like mess with them, disrupt them, whatever, if your opponent outs the Charade and you still think you might need one more disruption for that turn, DD Crow is just a nice one-of to have so that you can guaranteed search a disruption, which can be the difference in very like close back and forth duels. So I like having it as a one-of. Also, if you just generically draw it, it's a decent hand trap in the format, obviously with everything being like graveyard centric, but also giving you a just extra material to banish from grave without even having to like start trying to play with your engine, which is really nice. Then we get to the spells. For the spells, triple Tenki, of course, and then the one Barrage. These are like your engine spells. Just Barrage, just like another awesome bonus for playing the Tri-Brigades, just having access to like an insane extender like this, just so nice. And then Tenki. I really like Tenki in this deck more so than pure Tri-Brigade, just because you're not forced to search Fractal every time. And even double Fractal is not bad, but like the utility of also being able to search a zoo is just really nice. You get to decide what you're searching and not just like accept that it's going to be Fractal, which is awesome. And then for the rest of the spells, double desires. This is just, you know, a +1. So, yep. 1 Monster Reborn and 1 Called by the Grave, finishing those out. Reborn's just actually a really good extender. I know you're banishing your stuff from Grave fairly often, but like you very often end up with stuff in Grave. If you need to play through Interruption, it usually means they negated like a Tri-Brigade's effect on field to banish. And so having Monster Reborn after that is really good. Also, a lot of your effects you need to resolve are just like slow main phase, like just, you know, not trigger ignition effects. And so if they just like pop you or remove you before you even like get a chance to activate your effects, then Monster Reborn just helps play around that pretty nicely. Just bait out interruptions and then Called. Just so good. In any mid-range deck, I highly recommend you at least play the 1 Called. Just feels so good in like so many different situations. Just such a versatile card. It's insane. And then finishing up here, we move into the traps. Triple Revolt, nothing crazy there. Triple Torrential Tribute, nothing crazy there. Triple Solemn Strike, again, nothing crazy there. This is actually a pretty standard lineup. Some people have been opting to play Trap Trick because it's more copies of cards that get them to Revolt. But I think with like Bearblum, it's like fine, and that's a 3 of anyway. So I don't know, like I'm okay with this. Obviously it's one of the best cards in the deck. If it starts resolving, you're in like such a strong spot, but I don't think it 100% has to be, you don't need to like max out Trap Trick to get access to it. Like Earth Machine does, you know what I mean? But these are really good. Torrential's good because like all your stuff floats. You're getting follow-ups off of Nervals. You're getting follow-ups off of Charade if worse comes to worse. So Torrential's just so good. And also like combined with like Rugal just makes this like so versatile. You can activate it like whenever you're ready. And that's really good. You don't have to rely on your opponent. And then Strike, just one of the better traps going second. If you open like Strike Torrential, very, very good going second. You're just like breaking boards. And taking names. Really good. So that's it for the main deck. Very, very simple. I think it's like a pretty standard list all in all. Just a couple other things I considered. I think IDP is definitely worth considering, but with the Zoo variant, you have less flex spots, and I still like that 9 hand trap number. So like obviously you could infringe on that and play a couple more traps, but for me right now, I'm leaving it where it's at. I have 9 traps, 9 hand traps, and cruising with that. You could also look at stuff like mid-range cards, Forbidden Chalice, Book of Moon, Cosmic Cyclone, you know what I mean? These just nice utility cards that are all have like a solid place in the game right now with where the meta's at, so can't complain about those either. All right, then we move to the extra deck here. Starting off, we'll just Link Climb. Starting off the Link 1s, just 1 Almirage. This is specifically for hands where you're just opening like nothing but kits and Nervals. You need to get them engraved to trigger their effects, so Almirage is just nice to get those working and at least either get you a follow-up for next turn to guarantee you're able to play on the following turn, or depending on your hand exactly, you could be able to actually make a board with it because of this card. So just helps the deck be a little more consistent. Then for the Link 2s, we're on 1 Farragut, 2 copies of Bearbrum, and 1 copy of Ancient Warrior's Oath, double Dragon Lords. I'd like to play 2 Farragut, but honestly, it doesn't come up often enough to warrant cutting something else for it. Bearbrum is awesome. Like this card adds 1 and discards 1 and extends you, but this card has a very high like ceiling play of like summoning back a monster from grave while also getting you a search for a revolt, and that's just so crazy. Like I know this card kind of sometimes has to neg you in certain combos, but revolt is like a +2 at least, and kind of can represent even more depending on the situation. So this card's like so insane in what it does for the deck, right? The only thing you could say about the deck is like it doesn't search revolt prior to this, and now that we have this, you're like, okay, cool. And then we have Oath. He's just an amazing Link 2. Again, another card I would almost consider it too if I had like infinite extra deck space, because you definitely can in like mid-range games use the second copy, but generally you only really need the 1. Just a really good interruption. Then for Link 3s, 1 Rugal. That is it. We don't have space for Hraesvelg, but again, that's another card I would ideally like to play for like very specific situations, but whatever. And he's just amazing. You have to play Rugal in this version of the deck. He gives you follow-up plays by like reviving Nervals and kits on your opponent's turn. That way when they leave the field, they're going to get you follow-up. As well as if you have him and Charade on the field, he is going to reborn something and trigger Charade to get a non-targeting banish at a moment's notice. So Very, very helpful card in the deck, more so than any of the other Tri-Brigade variants. I guess other than Pure. Then for Link 4s, we're on double Shiraig. This card is amazing. I love him. 1 copy of Appaloosa and 1 copy of Access Code. Listen, you need at least 2 Shiraig. I'd like to play 3, but again, we lose 5 slots in the extra deck just by playing the Zoos. But amazing. He's an insane interruption, insane removal with a really, really strong float effect as well. Appaloosa, part of your end board, you have to play Oppo. This is not negotiable, but it's like $5, so it's, I think, unless it's more, unless it's gone up. But with the gold rare, I think the price is still pretty affordable. And then Access Code. This is definitely not an absolute must, but it is a card that if you have access to, I highly recommend it. This deck can make Shiraig fairly easily, but other than that, it doesn't put other multiple big bodies on the board in one turn. Usually you can just summon like 1 big body. And so I'd rather be going into something like Access Code, and he also can just clear boards. Shiraig is a banish 1 card, but other than that, the archetype doesn't really have access to removal. So having something like this in your deck gives you that oomph. That you're just going to go pop, 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 clear a whole board. Even if you don't win the duel, you're going to put them on a timer with low life points, and you're going to clear almost all of their field resources. And that has value, for sure. And then finishing up the extract is just the Zoo package, right? 1 Dryadent, 1 Chakanine, 1 Tiger Mortar, 1 Borbo, and of course these facilitate Zeus. Realistically, this is like the main reason why you even attempt to play the ZOODIACs in this deck, because ZOODIACs aren't particularly good going second as an engine, but ZOODIACs are. If you can bait out all actual like raw, everything but like 1 raw negation, then like Zeus just like beats them, right? And so it just adds like a lot of extra oomph to an engine that like sometimes feels like it needed a little bit of assistance. But this is obviously just like the core 5 you need to play if you're going to play Zoos. But again, if you're going to drop the Zoos, you make room for 5 more cards in the extra deck, which we'll talk about in 1 minute. Okay, so that's it for the main deck and the extra. Obviously, let me know in the comments down below what you would change about the list, what your personal preferences are. I love hearing about your guys' choices on stuff like that. But if you are a budget player, let me just mention, first and foremost, if you are a budget player and you want to play Tri-Brigade, drop the ZOODIACs, okay? So drop these 5 cards, drop those 3, and drop that. Because like the only thing here is you have to play Zeus if you're going to play this engine. Yeah, and if you don't want to pay for Zeus, then you just drop the engine, because I don't think the engine's worth playing without Zeus, to be honest. So drop these, which means you'll have 5 extra deck slots open and 4 main deck slots open. As far as the 5 extra deck slots go, I think you're looking at stuff like a second Farragut, like I said, maybe a second Oath, maybe a second Rugal, a 3rd Shiraig, and probably like Hraesvelg, probably a copy of Hraesvelg. I think that's like the most simple way you could go about it. Just make sure that version's going to grind even better, because you don't have stuff like Zeus, these huge swingers, like a huge swinger like Zeus to like lean on. And so duels can go longer, so the 3rd Shiraig will come up more, the Farragut, the Oath and stuff. And so I think those will be nice to have. And then obviously Hraesvelg comes up in like very specific situations. And as far as the main deck goes, I mean, this is just utility options, right? You could play more hand traps. Like I said, Cosmic Cyclone, those kinds of cards, those mid-range, just nice utility cards that you know are going to cover a wide range of matchups. Or like, I know it's not budget, but like IDP is, like I said, but it doesn't have to be IDP. It could be any trap that you think is just good in the format. Plug it in here and you know, just add to your deck's ability to, you know, stop your opponent, set cards into a board. Maybe stuff that pairs well with Solemn Strike would be nice. That way you, you know, have higher chances of opening like that 2-card combo going second to break through a board. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the budget options. That's what I would kind of recommend if you did want to build this deck budget. Because as far as the Tri-Brigade stuff goes, as long as you can get your hands on like 2 Shiraig, your playset of Fractal, and like 1 Farragut, the rest of the whole like engine is like pretty super affordable. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have here. Like I said, leave me your thoughts down below. What would you change about the list? I know it's fairly standard, but I don't know. I build decks that I like, and I know it's standard. I know it's not the craziest list, but this is what I would play right now. And obviously there's a lot of tech choices because the engine's actually fairly compact in this deck. So there's a good amount of tech choices. You can change some traps, hand traps, you know, the reborn, the called, all that stuff can definitely swap around. So let me know your thoughts there. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, don't forget, if you like this mat and you think it's clean, check the description below, because I will have information on where you can get this and how you can get it 10% off. And that's going to do it for me here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe if you haven't and you want to see more deck profiles from me. I have multiple other decks. I kind of got like the cookie cutter ones out of the way so far, like the Trap Tricks and this one. These are like the easy ones to build, but I have more interesting ones coming very, very soon. I'm still waiting on that stuff in the mail. So I love you. Thank you. Goodbye.